Hello, welcome to Waypoint Survival. Today I want to talk to you about building a survival kit in your hat. Stay tuned. So why put a survival kit in a hat? Well, it has a lot to do with availability and ease of carry, and something you can just throw on at a moment's notice that doesn't take a whole lot of time and effort. Of course, it can be pre-packed, and it's something you can always have with you. And I find it to be very, very useful. And I did this some months ago, and so I've had different variations. I've used this concept in different kind of kits, but this is the first time that I've ever actually packed it into a hat. And I got this hat from a friend of mine named Tom, so thank you, Tom, for the hat. But also I went ahead and modified it according to my own purposes. And of course, that's one of the things that you should always do with any survival kit or medical kit or anything of that nature. You always need to make sure and personalize it, because most of the things that you buy at the store, they don't really fit your individual or personal needs. They're pretty much made by commercial companies trying to save some money, trying to make a few dollars. And so it's always a good idea to put together your own gear, things that you're familiar with, and something that you yourself would be willing to use and pay money for. Of course, you're going to pay more money for it than if you bought it, for instance, all together, because again, they're going to try to save as much money as they can. So they're going to give you something cheap. And that's just the way it is. That's just the nature of commercial sales. So you just kind of have to deal with that. So we're going to go down here to the creek, and it's a beautiful day. We've had rain for several days, but it's finally a beautiful sunshiny day. And so we're just down here in one of the lower fields not too far from our property, and we're going to be just checking out the creek area, seeing how things are going. And then I'm going to set up the tripod and spread everything out on a rock so that you can see what all I carry in my survival hat. So stick with me. We definitely have a lot more water flow than we did just a few days ago. And nice big pool out here. There's some pretty large bass, smallmouth bass, and other fish that we have caught out of here. And we do use this in our survival classes for training. But just looking down through here, we do have a fair amount of beaver on this creek, and it's just a great place to relax. Some nice little riffles over here. I'll give you a shot of that here in a second. But just a really beautiful place to come down and sometimes have a bit of a warm drink and start a fire. Wander around through the area here. Got a pretty large wilderness area that I have access to. So really nice, really nice. Give you a shot of these riffles over here. Alright, so that's enough of the beautiful scenery and the water and the pleasant sounds that water makes with rushing over rocks. You came to watch a video about this hat, so let's get to it. So the base cap that this survival kit is built around is made by Wazoo Survival gear, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with that company. And it's a great hat, but with a few modifications it becomes a really great survival kit. And so one of the first things I did is I got this edition here, and you can get it at billblade.com, and you have to cut out a portion of the cap, and then this fastens in with 4 screws. And what it is, it's held on by a very strong magnet. It's a very nice little survival blade, and it's got a couple little areas here so you can put your fingers in it, and holds a good edge, quite sharp, and you can see the magnets right in here where it's held in place. And it's very easy to access and very safe. Goes on really securely. It's not going to fall out. The other thing I did is I had at Walmart, I had purchased a hunting hat, a hunting cap that had some lights built into it, some LED lights. And so I undid the stitching in the cap and I added the LED lights to this Wazoo Survival hat. So now when you push the button, you see we have some really great lights. So after I put the lights in here and I fastened the switch, which is inside here, it's a bit of a bump, but again, this came out of the hat that I bought. You just find it with your fingers right next to the blade, and it's very easy to find and turn on. And it's daylight, so it's not very bright right now, but at night throws out a really good amount of light, perfect for bushwhacking, running around in the dark and all of that, if you should need to, or if you're caught out in a survival situation. Now the neat thing about these hats is they come with pockets all around the inside, and the first pocket is right here underneath the brim, and it's held on by just a little bit of Velcro, and I just have a small pack of 2 Band-Aids and a surgical scalpel, and of course that is for cleaning small game, of course, but also the Band-Aids for small cuts and things like that. So we'll lay that down. And then it has a very large pouch here, you've probably already seen that, which is right in front of where your forehead sits, and in that I carry a survival blanket, just a Mylar blanket. Alright, next, around the sides here, and I've got them fastened together, as you can see here, with some safety pins. You don't have to do that, but it's just additional help to keep things from falling out. And the safety pins themselves are very useful, of course. But in this I have a small pouch, and in this is a needle. Of course, the sewing needle is always a great thing to have for any kind of gear repairs or anything like that that you might possibly need. And then inside the little bag here, I have a couple of items. First of all, I have a small magnifying lens, and again, that's just to help for solar ignition, for a solar fire. And also I have a small zipper type button compass, which can be used, you know, in conjunction with your natural sense of direction to be able to tell where you're headed. In the other large pocket on this side, and I try to carry a lot of my stuff in small Ziploc style bags. So first of all, in here have a very small amount of jute twine and also some steel wool. And that, of course, is for fire starting. In this Ziploc bag, I have a couple of items. First of all, a pretty good sized little ferrocerium rod. And of course that can be scraped with the back of the knife blade if you should need to, or anything else that's able to do that. You could even use a piece of glass, of course, to scrape a ferrocerium rod. And then inside this other bag is a small fishing kit. And I have several hooks and a couple of swivels and some 80-pound test fishing line. This is spider wire, and along with some just black electrical tape holding things together, which can also be used in different ways for your survival items. Also in this large pouch, I have a couple of extra batteries. These are the CR2032 batteries that go along with the light, of course, in the cap itself, so that way I have always extra battery strength if I should need it. Now, if I need to change out the batteries, over on this side, running inside the cap itself and held on place by another safety pin, is the battery pack. And it looks just like this. And I've got it inside of a Ziploc bag, trying to keep it somewhat water resistant with just the wires running out this side and running up to the light in the front. But I keep this tucked inside, and hopefully generally speaking, depending on what the weather is, it will stay fairly water resistant, although it won't survive a dunking. It's not completely waterproof. Oh, and one other thing, up here in the very front brim of the hat, you see this sticking out? I have 2 more safety pins. So safety pins are small, they're quite easy to use, they work quite well, and a lot of different uses in a survival situation. And here you can see all of the gear laid out, and of course I stitched a Waypoint Survival patch on my hat, and you can buy these actually off my website if anybody's interested. But you can see where I've got everything laid out. And just to recap, pun intended, of course we have where the bill blade fits, we've got our lights, and then a little fishing kit, a couple of band-aids, a surgical blade. We have the magnifying lens with the case to protect it, jute twine, steel wool, needle, compass, ferro rod, spare batteries for the light, knife blade, we have the emergency blanket, and 5 decent sized safety pins. Alright, so we got the hat packed, everything's back together. You can see what it looks like when it's on. It's a pretty good looking cap, and it does a pretty good job. So I really like all the pockets, I like the options. I like the fact that I can just grab my hat, put it on my head, head out into the woods, and I've got a pretty decent little survival kit with me. Not comprehensive, of course, but pretty complete for the room and space that's available to you in one of these hats. This is James Bender for Waypoint Survival. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also make sure and check out the links in the description box below. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate it. And when you do subscribe, make sure and press that bell button so that you can stay notified of all of our upcoming videos, and we'll talk to you next time.